A report claims that Spurs are interested in Liverpool's Curtis Jones. Mathys Tel is now apparently desperate to leave Spurs after his Champions League snub by Spurs boss Thomas Frank. Rumours around the exit of Micky van der Ven continue to swirl, with reports suggesting he won't sign a new contract unless a new elite manager is in position at the club. And Frank appears to still have the backing of the Spurs hierarchy as he enjoys a nice lunch with CEO Vinay Venkatesham. Ah, bless him. Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines, where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Okay, let's get into it. Tottenham Hotspur have shown interest in Curtis Jones from Liverpool, according to The Times. Spurs have already signed Conor Gallagher this winter and could now reunite Jones with his former England teammate. The duo have played together twice for the senior side, having previously teamed up for the under-21s. Both players will be hoping to make it into Thomas Tuchel's squad for this summer's World Cup. Gallagher has already made the move for more game time, playing the full 90 minutes on his debut for Spurs. Jones, on the other hand, has started all but one of Liverpool's last 10 matches, the only exception being the 0-0 draw with Arsenal when he was an unused sub. Team Talk report: a Tottenham star is now desperate to leave and is a dream target of one specific club this month after Thomas Frank snubbed the player in what will likely be one of his final acts as Spurs manager before being sacked. Frank is perilously on thin ice at Spurs, with David Ornstein confirming over the past 36 hours it's a matter of when and not if the Dane is sacked. The Spurs fans have turned and have key members of the club's hierarchy. Frustratingly for Frank, Ornstein confirmed several Tottenham players have also had enough of the under-fire boss. Frank will still be in charge for Tottenham's Champions League clash with Borussia Dortmund tonight, though all bets are off beyond that encounter, especially if they don't win. And according to three separate sources, Frank has angered a recent Tottenham signing in the build-up to the Dortmund game. Speaking on Monday, Frank confirmed that Mathys Tel has been left out of Tottenham's Champions League squad for the second half of the season. Tel was also omitted from Spurs' squad for the UCL in the first half of the campaign before ultimately earning a reprieve after Dominic Solanke suffered a lengthy injury. But with Solanke now back to full fitness, he has taken the spot Tel otherwise would have assumed. The decision to snub the £30 million summer signing has gone down like a lead balloon with he and his camp. Talking to X, all three of Fabrizio Romano, Ben Jacobs and Florian Plettenberg confirmed Tel has reacted badly to the omission. Tel was already weighing up his exit options with Ligue 1 side Paris FC, not to be confused with PSG, exploring a loan deal. But on the back of the Champions League snub, Tel will now push even harder to leave. He believes that with regular game time, he can make France's World Cup squad. Another reason Tel is believed to want out of Spurs is the club's reluctance to play him in his favoured striker position. In the event Frank is sacked, the recently hired John Heitinga would be an obvious choice to assume control in an interim capacity. Looking further into the future, Team Talk understands Andoni Iraola, Oliver Glasner and Mauricio Pochettino are also on Spurs' radar, though none are likely to be available until the summer. Tentative approaches to Xabi Alonso, who recently left Real Madrid, were made, but Alonso has shown little willingness to take charge at Spurs. Team Talk report that Tottenham Hotspur are facing the devastating exit of Micky van der Ven unless a huge statement is made by the club over the coming months, with sources revealing how Premier League rivals Liverpool are ready to make a stunning swoop. The North London club are in turmoil at the moment, sitting 14th in the Premier League, having just won one of their last 7 games, with boss Thomas Frank clinging on by a thread and facing the sack on a game-by-game basis. And while much of focus at Tottenham is currently on the dugout, there are also growing concerns that top stars will look to leave if there are signs that the club is continuing on a downward trend. One such player is centre-back Micky van der Ven, with a speculative report on Sunday claiming that Liverpool are preparing a £78 million bid for the Netherlands star this summer. Trusted insider Dean Jones stated the answer was very clear. Tottenham risk seeing their fears of losing Van der Ven intensify unless a new elite manager is in place by next summer. The Dutch defender has not yet agreed a new deal and is believed to have delayed the issue while Thomas Frank has been in charge. He has been one of the few players to show consistent spells of decent form this season, but Spurs face losing him if their season is not salvaged, as he has been unconvinced by the Frank project. He's also become aware of opportunities that may lie elsewhere. Liverpool's interest is genuine, while Real Madrid are also keeping an eye on how things play out. Sources indicate that Spurs would push the ceiling in terms of the type of manager they would seek to succeed Frank, and identifying true candidates is part of the reason they have been delaying a decision on whether to sack him. Indeed, whoever eventually gets the role, should Frank be shown the door this summer, will be pivotal. One, to make sure quality signings are acquired, but more importantly that the likes of Van der Ven are convinced to stay. For the time being though, the under pressure Frank will be at the helm again for Tuesday night's Champions League clash with Borussia Dortmund. Sports Mail report that Thomas Frank has commented on the intense boos from the Tottenham Hotspur supporters after Saturday's 2-1 Premier League defeat against West Ham United. The loss was Spurs' 9th of the 2025-26 season, leaving the North London club 14th in the Premier League table after 22 game weeks. In fact, we're 15th now. Spurs have won just one of their last 8 across all competitions, losing 5, and the fans ran out of patience with the Danish manager during the game, chanting, "You're getting sacked in the morning," at the former Brentford boss. Rumours swelled after the defeat that Frank was on the brink of getting the sack at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but the manager remains in situ for the time being. Frank revealed on Monday that he held a productive lunch meeting with influential figures, including CEO Vinay Venkatesham and sporting director Johan Langer. The head coach insisted that he still feels the backing and support of his employers despite the mounting external scrutiny on his position. "I've just been feeling the trust along the way. I've said that every press meeting that there's backing and support," he said via Sky Sports News. "I had lunch with Nick, Vinay and Johan today, so all good. I know it's part of the media circus and the only focus I have is to do everything I can for us to win against Dortmund. I've said many times and I'll say it again, as long as we win football matches and we make sure we win enough of them, then everyone will support us. It's not about me, it's about supporting the team, supporting the players." Despite domestic struggles, Spurs are 11th in the league phase of the 36-team Champions League table, positions just behind Real Madrid, Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid, between 6th and 8th, ahead of the penultimate match day in Europe. The above source suggests that whilst meetings were held at board level to discuss Frank's future, he will lead the team in Europe this week, although the 52-year-old will have to deal with a plethora of injuries. Spurs down to bare bones for Dortmund in the European clash. The task for the under-fire manager is complicated by a severe injury crisis that has left the squad down to the bare bones. Only 11 senior players are currently fit and available for selection for the visit of the Bundesliga giants, including primary defenders Christian Romero and Pedro Porro. Forward options are limited to Dominic Solanke, Randall Kolo-Muani and Wilson Odobert, as the club faces a race against time to recover key starters. A failure to secure a positive result against Dortmund could force the leadership to reconsider their stance, however, before the weekend trip to Burnley. Okay, here's my thoughts on those stories today. Not tons of news, as you might think, and most of it out there is around Thomas Frank. So much news around Thomas Frank. Firstly, let's cover Spurs' interest in Curtis Jones. This is just basically from one report, but it's been reported by several outlets on the back of that. I suppose we've got to ask ourselves, would we be happy with the signing of Curtis Jones? It would be essentially another midfielder, attacking midfielder, you could say. So, but haven't we got enough of this type of player in the squad? Look, Curtis Jones is a great player. I actually like him, but have we not got enough? When you think about Madison's and Kulusevski's and Javi and players that can also play in that position, is this the sort of player we need? I'm not sure it is. Could he play on the left-hand side, left wing? I would just prefer a proper dedicated left winger for me. But yeah, this would seem a weird one if we did do it. But obviously another English player would be good to get those numbers up. But really, would you buy a player just because of that? I suppose Spurs have to at some point. But yeah, would this really get the fans excited? Not sure. Secondly, Matisse Tell. Very unhappy. I don't blame him at all. Obviously dumped out the squad for the returning Dominic Solanke. Having looked at it, in a way it made sense, but Dominic Solanke coming back, how would that feel for Matisse Tell, young player? Yeah, he hasn't set the world alight, but he's been one of our better players, I would say, over the last couple of weeks and couple of games. I don't blame him for being unhappy. Thought we signed him permanently in the summer. Apparently Frank said yes to that move, and he's not using him in his preferred role either up front. So it's a strange one, the Matisse Tell situation. I don't blame the player wanting to go out on loan. If he wants to get in the World Cup squad for France, that's probably the only way he's going to do it, is to play games. He can't just be sitting on the bench all the time. So could they let him go if we don't bring anybody in the window? There's very little out there, incomings, So, what are they going to do with Thomas Frank? We don't even know if we're going to have a permanent manager this time next week. So are they going to be spending money if we haven't got a permanent manager? I can't see how we do. Perhaps that's one for the summer, but, we can't let Matisse Tell go on loan if we don't bring anybody in. Surely we're so down to the bare bones. It's ridiculous, but let's see how that one plays out. But I don't blame Matisse Tell at all for not being happy on that one. Micky van der Ven refusing to sign a new deal, basically, in a nutshell, while Thomas Frank's in charge and wants to see progression at the club. I don't blame Micky van der Ven at all. I don't think any fan would. He's got ambitions. He wants to win trophies. He wants to play at the top. He wants to play Champions League football, and we're just not seeing that ambition from Spurs at the moment, albeit with the manager or the direction the club's going. Yes, I know it takes time, but I would have expected things to be a bit better than they are. I think most fans would, and I don't think that's too much to ask. So Micky van der Ven, look, he's still got a few years left on his contract, but if somebody comes in with an offer in the summer and the player wants to go, it's a difficult situation. So whatever the club does, they've got to show ambition. I've said it time and time again. We've got to show ambition and show players like Micky van der Ven and Christian Romero that we mean business and build the team around these players. Give them that bit of backing and tell them definitely, and make them see exactly what we're trying to do, show them what we're trying to do as a club, and bring in big names to play around them, and just make it look like we mean business, because we're all over the place at the moment. The world of Spurs is absolutely chaotic. It's some of the worst times I've known as a Tottenham fan right at the moment. And yeah, with social media, it's obviously sometimes a bit worse nowadays than it used to be in the 80s and 90s, but this is really bad. It's as bad as I can remember. So look, this got to be sorted, and it can't continue. And leading on from that, what things can't continue, I believe Thomas Frank has to go. I'm surprised he hasn't gone already. I think most of the fan base are almost shocked that he hasn't gone already and that he's in place for Dortmund tonight. In a way, I feel a little bit sorry for him that the club have put him in this position. I would have personally said, and I've said this the other day, that I think you should have sacked him and let him go with a little bit of dignity, because if we lose heavily tonight against Dortmund, it's just going to be even worse for him. And are the board putting him up as a bit of a shield for themselves while he's in charge? The flack's off them to a degree. But if he's gone, then all of that you would think would be aimed at the board. So I would just ask the board to act responsibly and see what the fans see, and just move Thomas Frank on. This hasn't worked. I think no matter how long you give it, it's never going to work with Thomas Frank. It's a shame, a real shame, and I do mean that. But he was never the right fit for Tottenham. So cut your losses, move the manager on, get an interim in, and then reassess in the summer. But have a plan. That's all I say. Please, Spurs, have a plan, because this cannot continue like this, because we're all just sick and tired of it, and we're just going to continue to lose football matches. And dare I say it, we could be in a relegation battle, which we don't want to be in. Let's pick up some more points, stay in the league. I think this season is done. And I never thought I'd say this, but staying in the league is paramount now. We've got to seriously do that and pick up some points. Well, that's all from me today. Get down in the comments, let me know your feelings right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan on any of those articles that I've been through today. And as always, keep the faith. Come on, you Spurs.